Title: The Woods Behind the Church. In the quiet English village of Hawthorne Vale, life moved at a pace so slow it almost felt frozen in time. Stone cottages lined narrow streets, chimneys stood like tired sentinels, and at the center of it all was Street Mark's church, built from old gray stone that had weathered centuries of wind and memory. But what truly defined Hawthorne Vale wasn't the church itself. It was what lay behind it, the woods. Locals called them simply the woods behind the church. No one bothered giving them a prettier name. No one wanted to romanticize them either. They were dense, uneven, and strangely quiet even during the daytime, as if the trees themselves were listening more than growing. Parents warned their children not to go near them alone. Elders avoided walking too close after sunset. And yet, like most warnings in small towns, curiosity always found a way to grow stronger than fear. This is where our story begins. 1. The boy who asked too many questions. 17-year-old Ethan Carter had only lived in Hawthorne Vale for 6 months when he started noticing things others ignored. He was the new kid at Hawthorne Vale Secondary School, a tall, quiet boy with messy brown hair and a habit of sketching in his notebook during class, mostly twisted trees and half-remembered symbols. His mother had moved them there after taking a job as a librarian in the next town over. Life was supposed to be peaceful, but Ethan didn't do well with peaceful. On his first week, he noticed something odd during lunch break. While sitting near the school's back fence, he could see the church steeple rising above the rooftops, and beyond it, the dark outline of the woods. Every single student avoided looking at them directly, except one, a girl named Megan Clark. Megan wasn't the popular type. She didn't try to be. She wore her dark hair tied back, always carried a worn leather satchel, and spent most of her time in the library or near the science rooms. But when her eyes accidentally drifted toward the woods, something in her expression changed. Not fear, something closer to memory. That was the first time Ethan became interested. 2. The warning. It didn't take long before Ethan heard the warnings. One afternoon while walking home, he was stopped by an older man outside the village bakery. The man's name was Mr. Halford, a retired groundskeeper who seemed to know everyone's business and everyone's secrets. "You're the new boy," Halford said, eyeing him carefully. "Yes, sir." Halford followed his gaze toward the church. His face tightened slightly. "You've been looking at the woods," he said. Ethan hesitated. "Just curious." The old man shook his head. "Curiosity is fine, but not about that place." "Why?" Halford paused. For a moment, it looked like he might explain. Instead, he simply said, "Because some places don't like being remembered." Then he walked away, his limp more pronounced than usual. 3. Megan's secret. The next day, Ethan finally spoke to Megan. It happened in the school library, a place that smelled like old paper and polished wood. She was sitting alone at a table near the back, reading something thick and outdated. A History of Forgotten English Parishes. Ethan approached slowly. "Hey," he said. She looked up. "You're the new guy." "Ethan." "Megan." A pause. Then Ethan, unable to hold it in any longer, asked, "Do you know anything about the woods behind the church?" The moment the words left his mouth, Megan closed her book, not loudly, not angrily, carefully, as if the question itself had weight. "You shouldn't ask about that," she said quietly. "Everyone keeps saying that," Ethan replied, "but nobody says why." Megan stared at him for a long moment. Then she leaned back slightly. "Because people who go in don't always come out the same." That was all she said. And then she left. 4. The first entry. Ethan didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, instead of going straight to school, he took a detour. He walked behind St. Mark's Church. The building loomed above him, its stained glass windows catching the early light like fragments of frozen fire. Behind it, the woods waited. There was no fence, no gate, just a natural boundary where grass ended and shadow began. He hesitated for only a moment. Then he stepped in. 5. Inside the woods. The moment Ethan crossed into the woods, the world changed. The air felt different, not colder, not warmer, just heavier. The sunlight filtered strangely through the trees, bending in unnatural angles. He walked deeper. At first, everything seemed normal. Branches, roots, leaves. But after 10 minutes, something became clear. There were no birds, no insects, no sound at all. Even his footsteps felt muffled, like the ground was swallowing them. And then he found something that made him stop. A stone marker, half buried. It had no name, just a symbol carved into it, a circle split by 3 lines. Ethan took out his phone to photograph it, but the screen flickered, then died. A chill ran through him. That's when he heard it. A whisper. Not words exactly, more like someone trying to remember how speech worked. He turned sharply. Nothing. But the feeling of being watched had already settled in. He left quickly. 6. Megan tells the truth. The next day, Ethan confronted Megan again. This time, he didn't wait. "You've been there," he said. She didn't deny it. Instead, she sighed. "Yes." "In the woods?" "Yes." "Then tell me what's going on." Megan looked around the hallway. Students passed by, unaware. Then she said something that made Ethan freeze. "The woods weren't always behind the church." "What do you mean?" "They moved." Ethan almost laughed, thinking she was joking, but her face didn't change. "My grandfather told me," she continued. "Long ago, the woods were on the other side of the village. Then one day, people woke up and realized the church had been built next to them without anyone remembering when it happened." "That's impossible," Ethan said. Megan shook her head. "That's what everyone says." 7. The group forms. That evening, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about it. He went back to the church woods again, this time not alone. Megan was waiting for him, and surprisingly, so was someone else. Daniel Price, a skeptical but brave student who loved proving legends wrong. Tall, athletic, always carrying a flashlight, just in case. "If there's something weird in there," Daniel said, adjusting his jacket, "I want to see it for myself." Megan didn't look happy, but she didn't stop him either. Together, the 3 of them entered the woods. 8. Deeper than before. The deeper they went, the stranger it became. Paths that didn't exist before appeared between trees, marks on trunks that looked like scratches, or writing, or something in between. Time itself felt inconsistent. Ethan swore they had been walking for 30 minutes. Daniel said it felt like 10. Megan said nothing. Then they found the second marker, and the third, each one slightly different. each one closer together than geography should allow. This doesn't make sense, Daniel muttered. Megan crouched near one of the stones. They're not markers, she said softly. What are they then? Ethan asked. She hesitated. Anchors. 9. The forgotten history. That night, Megan finally told them everything she knew. Years ago, long before anyone alive in Hawthorne Vale, the church was built over something older. Something buried not just in the ground, but in memory itself. The woods, she explained, were not natural. They were a boundary, a containment. Containment for what? Ethan asked. Megan looked at him. For something the village agreed to forget. Daniel shook his head. That's not how memory works. Megan's voice lowered. It is if enough people agree. She told them about the old journals her grandfather had hidden. Accounts of villagers who entered the woods and returned speaking of previous lives, of the village being swallowed and reset, of the church acting as both protector and prison. 10. The breaking point. 2 nights later, Ethan went alone again. He couldn't explain why. It felt like something inside the woods was calling him, not with sound, but with familiarity. As he walked deeper, the trees grew closer together. The air became stiller. Then he saw it. A clearing. In the center stood something impossible. A structure made of stone and wood, partially grown into the forest itself. It looked like a chapel, older than the church above it, and inside it, movement. Ethan stepped forward, and that's when the whispering stopped. Everything stopped. Even his thoughts felt paused. A voice spoke, not from outside, from inside his head. You came back. Ethan froze. I've never been here before, he said out loud. A pause. Then the voice replied, not in this life. 11. The truth of Ethan. What followed was not a conversation. It was an unfolding. Images flooded Ethan's mind. Places he had never been. People he had never met, yet somehow recognized. The village, the church, the woods, all layered over each other like pages of a book rewritten too many times. He saw himself, older, desperate, leading a ritual in the old chapel. He saw the woods spreading, consuming houses, erasing streets. He saw the villagers gathering at the church, choosing collective forgetting as the only way to push the entity back. And then the truth settled in. Ethan wasn't new to Hawthorne Vale. He had been there before, in another version of it, a version where the woods had consumed more than trees, and something had been done to stop it. By forgetting. 12. The choice. Megan and Daniel found him at dawn. He was sitting in the clearing, staring at the stone chapel. You went alone, Daniel said sharply. Ethan didn't respond immediately. Then he said, it's not just a place. It's a memory that keeps trying to rebuild itself. Megan stepped closer. What did it show you? Ethan looked at her. That were part of the forgetting. Silence. The woods seemed to listen. Then the chapel doors creaked open slightly. A choice was being offered. Go deeper, or leave and forget again. 13. The reckoning. They didn't leave immediately. Daniel, ever the skeptic, marched toward the chapel. This is ridiculous. It's just an old ruin. As soon as he crossed the threshold, the air rippled. Daniel stumbled back, eyes wide. I saw my grandmother. She was screaming my name, but I wasn't born yet. Megan touched one of the stone anchors. Her hand trembled. It's getting stronger. The anchors are pulling the past forward. Ethan felt it too. The pull. Memories that weren't his flickered at the edge of his mind. Nights spent in the chapel, carving new anchors, whispering the village's name to keep it anchored in the present. They argued for hours as weak sunlight filtered through the canopy. Daniel wanted to burn the woods down. Megan wanted to seal them with whatever old rites her grandfather had recorded. Ethan just wanted to understand, but understanding wasn't allowed. The woods did not want to be solved. They wanted to be continued. 14. The sacrifice. That same evening, they returned with tools and old books from Megan's attic. They tried everything. They burned sage and salt around the anchors. They read passages from the forbidden journals. Nothing worked. The chapel grew taller, its wooden beams stretching like limbs. Then the voice returned, this time to all three of them. One must stay. One must remember. One must forget. Daniel laughed bitterly. Classic horror trope. But Megan's face had gone pale. It's not a trope. It's a balance. The village has done this before. Someone always stays behind to hold the line. Ethan looked at his friends. His only friends in this version of Hawthorne Vale. He stepped forward. I'll stay. Megan grabbed his arm. Ethan, no. I've done it before, he said quietly. I can feel it. This is why I came back. To finish what I started. Daniel protested, but the woods answered with a low groan that shook the trees. In the end, they performed the rite together. Megan and Daniel left the clearing first, tears in their eyes, repeating the words of forgetting. Ethan remained. He sat in the old chapel as the doors closed around him. The last thing he heard was Megan's voice, already growing distant. We'll remember you, for as long as we can. 15. The new normal. Megan and Daniel emerged behind Street Mark's church just as the sun rose fully. The woods looked the same, but something had shifted. They walked back into the village. People greeted them normally. No one asked where Ethan was. When Megan tried to say his name later that day, it caught in her throat. Daniel sketched the anchors in his notebook during class, then stared at the drawing in confusion before crumpling it. By the end of the week, Ethan Carter was a vague memory, a boy who had moved away suddenly, the new kid who asked too many questions. 16. The cycle continues. Months passed. Hawthorne Vale returned to its slow rhythm. But one crisp autumn afternoon, a new family moved in. A quiet girl with curious eyes and a sketchbook. She noticed the woods behind the church on her very first day, and when she looked toward them, something stirred in her memory, not fear, something closer to recognition. In the woods, deep in the chapel, Ethan sat among the anchors. He smiled faintly. The cycle had begun again. Closing note. The mystery of the woods behind the church remains alive, hidden just beyond what we choose to remember. Some stories don't end. They simply wait for the next person brave or foolish enough to step inside. Thank you for watching this. If you'd like an even longer continuation, different ending branches, or a sequel focusing on Megan's later years, let me know. Sweet dreams, and stay out of strange woods.